grow this 10-acre minimum. And as a permaculturalist and more, a gardener at heart, I'm discouraged by that because it takes hemp out of the hands of the common people who may not own 10 acres of land, right? That's a lot of the people who actually want to grow hemp, is people who want to grow it in their garden. And on that note, as a gardener and a hemp enthusiast, one of the things when we garden if you really want to look at a garden and say, I want to get a big supply of my protein out of my garden, it's quite hard to do. Like, there's beans, there's lentils, there's peas, but a lot of the stuff we grow in our gardens is potatoes, carbohydrates, starches, which are needed, vegetables. But if we could grow hemp in our gardens, and I'm speaking from the experience I've had with the hemp that I've kind of gardened myself, right beside my field. If you give one female hemp plant all the room she needs, you fertilizer, give her like a couple bean plants around, you'll get easily a pound of whole hemp seeds per plant. So if a person needs, a pound of protein per year, like 56 weeks, you could in theory grow 56 hemp plants in your garden, give them lots of room, and harvest like a significant portion of your protein. But we can't do that because we can't grow 10 acres, and we also can't do that because there is a restriction on the selling of whole viable seed. And this restriction on whole viable seed goes to another level of this modern era of agriculture, which restricts farmers from saving seed. Because hemp was introduced in '98, the era of Monsanto essentially dictating, and maybe not dictating, but really giving a lean to our agricultural policies. Hemp was introduced under this framework of all the seed varieties that we can grow are owned by companies. So farmers cannot grow hemp, save their seed, and then grow that hemp the next year. The reason, the technical reason I'll give you is that if a farmer does that, eventually his hemp crop will slowly go back to its roots and become marijuana. And it's just like bogus. It's not even. And my response to that is so these seed companies that are growing certified low THC hemp seed, are they going out to each individual female plant, testing for THC, being like, oh, that one's too high, therefore we must take it out, and only let the ones that are low THC? You can imagine how daunting that would be. And that's not what's happening. They're growing big fields of hemp seed, harvesting the seed, and selling it. So there's some things there that are really restricting the common person from becoming a hemp gardener. And in relation to that the lack of growth with the fiber industry, we've had this industry for over 10 years, and we still don't really have you can't go to the store and buy a Canadian-grown hemp fiber product. Just think if they had legalized hemp and let people grow it in their backyards, how many small artisan-style hemp fiber products we'd see. There'd be lots of them. Even if people are making bracelets and making their own twine, there'd still be a Canadian hemp fiber industry that would probably be bigger than the fledgling industrial hemp fiber market that we do have. So coming at this from the point of the indigenous small-scale farmer, and indigenous I mean European indigenous too, right? That's if everybody has roots to indigenous farming, whether we come from Europe or Africa or here. So I know that that's how our ancestors grew hemp. They grew it in small amounts, and so those are two of the things that really bug me a lot about it. The other one is the criminal record check, and you have to get a criminal record check every year in order to grow hemp. And if your criminal record check comes up as someone who's been associated with marijuana, you can't grow hemp. And my question is, seriously, why? You can grow wheat if you've had a marijuana conviction, and if you've had a marijuana conviction, so it's just that they're making this association between the two, right? That's all to me, that's all that's there for. I suppose they would say, well, a previous marijuana criminal may then use a hemp permit to grow some weed. And again, it's well, who's dumb enough to use that as their cover? And the other thing that, everyone here is probably educated in the cultivation some of the ideas of cultivation. But I mean, marijuana is flowers that we smoke, right? It's finding seeds in your stash is generally a bad thing. If we grew hemp in marijuana fields, that marijuana would be the worst grade marijuana. It wouldn't be medicinal grade, it would be full of seeds. So this separating of the two, like their justification is actually, it doesn't hold water to the reality of growing the two crops. Like, so I just have a little bit of an issue with that, you know. So that's the conclusion. I'll open up to questions.
The criminal record check does apply only to cannabis crimes or to other drug crimes as well?
It does apply to other crimes too. It's not just cannabis. So yeah, that, which again, like, so if someone has a criminal, you know, record, they can't participate in this hemp industry, and it's just like, well, why not? Because hemp, there's nothing bad about hemp, you know, and other than the association with marijuana. But that's, so it's just, I find the whole thing silly. I think you could even make the argument that hemp farm, some kind of hemp farm program could be good for rehabilitating previous criminals. Like, as we've seen in some prisons around the world, agricultural programs are often very successful with rehabilitating people, I mean, in prison and when they get out of prison. So, yeah, it's broad. It applies to anyone with. If you went and got that check and you had something on it, they would say, sorry, no guys, you can't grow hemp. So.
Where in Victoria can your brothers convert it?
Well, the Cannabis Buyers Club is one of my buyers. I'd say that's probably the first, and that's what they look like. They're good seed. We've got the lifestyle markets. All the hemp and company stores are super supportive of us. There's the market on Yates, the Seed of Life downtown, Share Organics food delivery service. So there's quite a few. There's quite a few places. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Are you up island as well?
Up island, yeah. We're in the Edible Islands in Courtenay. In Nanaimo, we're at the Old City Organics.
Port Alberta?
Port Alberta, we're in Healthy Habits.
Okay,
yeah.
I know.
Yeah, so we've got a pretty good spread, and we only market on the island. We have a couple stores that we've got word of mouth in like Vancouver and Saskatchewan, but our focus again with the whole small scale thing, like I want, you know, thousands and thousands of pounds to be eaten on Vancouver Island, so I'm just going to market it here. And if it's successful, someone else can do it in Vancouver, and someone else can do it in, you know, the interior. It doesn't have to be one company that's the empire of Canada, you know. We want it to become a staple food, so I think there'll be lots of people selling it. So, yep.
On your last point on the cultivation of the hemp and cannabis together, not only can't you grow it in the same field, but possibly miles.
Totally.
Right? If everybody started growing small crops of hemp, would definitely impact on people's possibly even indoor.
You're totally right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe there would be.
Seed is no good.
Totally. Which is an issue. So maybe there is something that we could do where you do have to, you know, get a permit.
It happened in Saanich about 15 years ago or something.
Did? That might have been the crop you were talking about. Because yeah, they've tracked the pollen cloud from Manitoba of hemp, and it goes all the way to the Great Lakes. So I mean, yeah, it's and a male hemp plant. Like you shake it, and all this pollen comes off, and you go back the next day and shake it, and all the same amount comes
On
off.
that point, you just allow the hemp to self-pollinate, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of weeding out the males and allowing the females to get bigger before they get pollinated?
I've thought about it, and yeah, like that's if we had smaller scale fields where you could do that with your human power, totally. And they do it in Hungary. In Hungary, where they've never outlawed hemp, then they have lots of human power to do a lot of farming. They go out and they take all the males because you can identify them. Like you say, the females get way bushier, and it's something like one male plant for every 20 square meters, and they actually put a little pedestal out there, and they pot up one male so it's above, and it'll easily pollinate like a masser, and then yeah, your yield is like probably tripled for sure, if not at least doubled. So it's a great idea.
On the hemp laws, it sounds like we're really behind the times. Like going to a farmer and saying, well, you got a DUI, you're not allowed to go wheat or ride anymore.
Hey, that's a real good comparison.
Like I was in Ontario and moved across to Canada. It doesn't make, there's a total disconnect.
Yeah, it's totally illogical. I don't understand.
Do you know if there's any other crops in Canada that require this kind of permit to grow?
There isn't.
That's what I thought.
No. And you can grow opium poppies if you want.
I'm surprised it hasn't been challenged before.
I'm surprised too. And actually that's one of the things I have thought about, like what could we, I've meditated and thought on this, like what could we do to possibly spur some kind of, political change. And one of the things I thought would possibly be helpful is to go to the Health Canada application, get your permit to apply to cultivate hemp, and do it all, like officially. And when they ask you for your field side, like give them a GPS for your garden and send it in. And say, if they got thousands of people doing that, I don't know, maybe they'd write it off, but maybe it would at least let them know people want to grow hemp in their backyard and they're willing to do the paperwork to be allowed to. So it doesn't actually cost you any money. That's the thing. Some people think it does. There's certain varieties of hemp that if you grow them, you have to pay like a $300 THC testing fee. There's other crops that are so low in THC that they only do a random testing. I've been tested every time I've grown my crop, but I've not always grown the mandatory testing variety. And so if you're on one of those crops like that doesn't require mandatory, you can grow it, and then there's a chance that the Food Inspection Agency will come to your farm and test your crop, but you don't have to pay anything for it. So if that applied possibly to the small-scale hemp movement, you could grow it and say, I'm willing to let a government agent come on my land to test my hemp plants if they want to, because I want to grow hemp so bad, kind of thing. I mean, that's pretty extreme in itself, just to do that to grow something in your garden, but hemp is a special, it's a special one. So.
You talk about hemp, but what about the hemp clothing? I've seen hemp used for like pair of shoes and rope, and so where is that a different type of hemp than what you're growing?
It's the same type of hemp. It's just probably grown in China, and they ship us the cannabis that's already made, and then we make Canadian manufactured clothes and shoes, but we're not using Canadian grown hemp, that's the part that I'm seeing is just like, America consumes more hemp products than any nation in the world in the form of shoes and seed and clothes and stuff.
This is all really.
Yes, I've seen the clothing. I was wondering, you were saying you don't know what you're going to do with the leftover stuff. Well, where do they get the material from?
Yeah, well, the thing there is very hard. So the machinery to do that hard job is expensive. Yeah, if I was a millionaire, I'd totally be one of the millionaires investing in it. I don't know why more big industrial capitalists don't invest in it, because when it's made, it will sell massive. Like when you make the first Canadian grown, processed, and sewn hemp clothing line, gold, like for sure. I mean, so I don't know why. I don't know. I'm not a millionaire, but yeah.
Are hemp plants capable of becoming invasive species into the nearby natural landscapes?
They have that potential for sure. In the States, the DEA spends a massive amount of money every year going out to the ditches in like Nebraska, Kentucky, and cutting feral hemp from when they had it legal, like 1930s. So yeah, even though it's a completely like a crop that they try to chop and eradicate, it went wild, 80 years ago. Well, maybe not 80 years ago, well, 70 years ago, and it's still a problem. So yeah, it has the ability to be. And when you get your permit, there's a lot of things about like the next year you have to contain every feral hemp plant. So your permit actually holds you to things for multiple years. So that's a good question for sure.
I would love to have another hour with Blake up here. He's so interested in his work, but I think I'm going to call it there. Thank you so much.